Alright, hey guys, it's National Master David Mbonu here, and today's video, first one in a while. I have like an hour to kill, so I figured I might as well do a video. I haven't done one in a minute. This one's gonna be a tournament recap, so I thought it'd be pretty cool to just let some of you guys know. Maybe you guys are like Class A, whatever, Class B, expert, whatever, but just kind of to see how a good tournament, kind of like the stuff that goes into I guess a good tournament for one of the higher level players, if you will, just to kind of like see what goes on and what goes through our heads and such like that. So I thought I'd just go through a little bit of a recap, just some of the highlights of the games in the tournament, and just let you guys, just kind of see how a tournament is for me. This is the Emory Castle tournament, which went like kind of well. I guess I'll talk about my views on my play afterwards, but numbers wise, it went okay. I didn't lose any games. I got, I think, 3 wins and 2 draws, which was enough to clear second. I couldn't catch Vedic Panda, who seems like he might be the next national master from Georgia. He killed it with 4.5 out of 5, but overall, it was still a good tournament. So there were definitely some interesting points. I won the tournament last year, which is funny enough. And last year, I wasn't an expert, and I was in the expert section. I was rated 1996, and I won it. This year, I also wasn't an expert. Technically, I was a master, and actually came in second, so kind of weird how that happens, but oh well. Whatever the case, it's probably my last time playing in this section. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So in my first round, I was #1 seed. My supplement was 2195, so I was, of course, I was playing down every round basically, but I was playing a lower 2000 rated player as black, so I wasn't too excited to get black because that means chances are high to get 3 blacks in the tournament. But against a lower rated opponent, I figured, okay, I mean, there's such a huge rating difference. Hopefully I can just outplay the guy, get a win, get in my next game as white, and then, keep it going from then. So he started off with, let me click here to make sure we can start. He started off with 1 knight f3, the ready defense, and I like to go d5 against that. Then he went g3, and we got to this position, which is the position that actually I reached against Andrew Sherpanov, the current Georgia State champion, in the last round. And I kind of don't mind playing like this. A lot of people like to bring out the light squared bishop, and perhaps I'll start adopting that sometime, but for now I actually don't kind of mind this. I feel like black's moves make a lot of sense. Black's develops a piece, he's taking some good control of the center, he's ready to castle. If white plays d4, as happened in the Sherpanov game, I can play knight c6, pressuring the center, and again having some good central control. If white plays c4 instead in the game, I have the option of playing d4. So now we're in a reverse Benoni, and I was already kind of happy because, well, for one, the Benoni is known to be strategically a little bit risky for the side that's actually playing the Benoni, which in this case is white. So my opponent's lower rated. We have an unbalanced game where theoretically I should possibly have a decent chance of getting an edge. So I was happy with this. So we went d3, knight c6 makes sense, and then knight d2. This move to me really didn't make a lot of sense because, for one, like, what are you doing with the bishop? And if the knight's going to e4, okay, but if the knight's not going to e4, what are you doing? So I just played bishop e7, then a3, a5. This is common, just prevent b4, make sure it doesn't have any play, and then b3. Another confusing move, because it seems like he wants to fianchetto his bishop, but it starts to get kind of clear, like, where's the bishop going if you fianchetto it? So, okay. I castle, bishop e2. Again, I don't really believe in this plan. And then I played a weird move here, but I mean, this is a me type of move. I like to have my pieces active. I like to have my pieces doing things. So my idea with the rook going to a6 is that, for one, this pawn may one day come up to the e5 square, and if it does, maybe one day my rook will be able to slide along the 6th rank. Who knows, for some crazy attack. A lot of times in the Benoni, the idea is to get an e5, or basically get this e-pawn up to the e4 square, and who knows, maybe I might even put an f5 in there, and then maybe this rook will swing over later. But in the short term, the purpose of this rook being on this square, other than getting off the diagonal, is just to put the rook on b6, which will hopefully tie down a piece to the b3 pawn, or maybe someday I'll be able to play a4 with the bishop being hit. So I kind of like the rook on a6. I mean, it's just a move I played quickly, and I felt like it had some good points to it. Queen c2 does make sense. Okay, so now I played knight d7, and my idea is I want to play like e5, f5, e4, so I was getting the knight out the way, queen c7. So now rook e1 makes sense, queen c7 makes sense, here. And yeah, this was I kind of miscalculated here. This is just a mistake. Okay, I was a little bit too confident. I wasn't properly doing my tactics. So this series was a bit of a mistake. In fact, Queen C7 may already have not exactly been what I should have gone for. Instead, I perhaps maybe should have gone for like Rook E8 or something like that. Yeah, maybe Rook E8. I really wanted to recapture on D4 with the C pawn so that I could get a knight to C4. That's another reason I put my knight to C5. That's another reason I put my knight on the D7 square, is because I wanted the knight to end up on the C5 square once there was a capture there. But I wasn't quite in time, and yeah, I just kind of played too lazily here. Then I was going to run him off the board. It's like, oh, am I getting F5, E5, knight on C4, knight on C5, and I'm just basically strategically winning. So Queen C7 here. Now remember, I calculated in my head, I was like, okay, I saw something with like him taking twice on D4 and then playing knight takes D4. But I kept telling myself, like, oh, it just shouldn't work. Like, this shouldn't work. My brain smelled a tactic, but I was like, David, there's no way that he can take on D4. Like, I just win a piece. It does not work. It does not work. So he took. All right. And here I'm thinking I'm just strategically winning. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put the pawn in I'm gonna put the knight on C5, the pawn on F5, the bishop on F6, maybe the rook on E8, and push E4, and he's gonna lose. And then he played knight takes D4. And I was just like, huh. Because I realized that after that's what happened in the game, E takes D4, he has this move bishop takes C6, which undefends my dark squared bishop and allows his rook to infiltrate. So I missed this in the game, but I very quickly saw that I would definitely have compensation here. Like, definitely have comp. So I took rook takes C7 and now C5. So now I'm down a pawn. However, look at those light squares. The light squares are just completely open. The bishop goes to b7, the queen goes to c6, maybe the f pawn comes up. This game is far from over. Also, the pawn I'm down is this backwards b pawn, and my rook's ready to slide over to b6 to hopefully threaten the pawn. And also, like I said, this rook being on this file, it can slide over. Like, maybe one day the rook may arrive on the h6 square, combined with an f5, f4, and the bishop. I mean, I actually didn't mind having this position, believe it or not, even though I'm down a pawn. So rook e1 makes sense, rook b6, just trying to tie some of his pieces down, queen d1, and queen c6. So here I'm pretty sure he wanted to play queen f3, but of course queen f3 now doesn't work because I just take twice and take on b3, forking the bishop and the d3 pawn, so he can't play that. So queen e2, bishop b7. I thought this was all pretty normal. Note that he can't play knight e4 because if knight e4 I kick the piece. I think around here I had better though. I think I had better. Around here, I believe there was an idea of going for f6, and the idea is simply to put the knight on the e5 square. And the computer was saying this was actually a pretty strong idea where black would realize his advantage and start to become better. And yeah, literally the idea is just put the knight on e5. If the f pawn ever comes up to f4, it's just a little bit too weakening. The bishop on b7 should be too much. So f6, knight e5 was strong. But I don't know if it was at this point though. We'll soon see. So bishop e7, f3, and now knight f6. Yeah, actually this was the point. Right here is apparently where f6 was a strong idea. Just going to play knight e5 and really pressure that pawn. And if the knight comes to e4, I get the feeling that there should be some way to kick it. Also, the knight in e5 disconnects this rook from the queen's protection, so this would have actually created a lot of problems for white to solve, and this was the way to go. But my opponent was getting very low on time, so I figured, hey, let me just blitz the guy. So knight f6 stops any rook e8 stuff and controls the e4 square, so I was kind of happy. So with very low time, my opponent played a4 and offered a draw. And to me, a4 looked positionally weird. I was like, you're just creating a super backwards pawn on b3. What are you doing? So I declined the draw, and now I'm just looking for moves that can just keep the game going. Because when your opponent's really low on time, if you can find moves that don't like kill you or don't hurt you that much, but that you can just make relatively quickly and keep the game going, it's a good idea because you can just run them one time. So I played g6, completely missing his idea, and then he played bishop a3. So the last two moves, this a4, bishop a3, this was really smart by my opponent. Great way to get some counterplay because now he started targeting my weak c pawn, and yeah, my ideas, I had to take a pause to really look at what was going on here. I wanted to play h4, h5, or h5, h4 to weaken the pawns or something like that, but yeah, this caused me to have to change my plan. So I played h5 anyway, queen e5, and now just rook c8, just defending everything. And now came in knight e4. And here I had a complete miscalculation. I believe I saw this position back when I played h5, and for whatever reason I thought after knight takes e4 that he had to take with the pawn. Like, I don't know why I figured this. I still don't know why. I think it was because I figured I'd have some sort of discovered attack, so I just thought he had to take with the pawn, and after he takes with the pawn I just get a good position after like rook takes b3 or something around that sort. But it was just all lies. He just took with the rook, and I started to realize the game's actually completely equal. Like, there's literally no way to avoid equality. Basically, black cannot stop the rook from coming to the e8 square and mass trades from happening. There's no way to stop it. And so we're forced to go into this simplified position where we get to this position, and here we didn't agree to a draw. He was actually very low on time, and I was very close to flagging him. Very close. But I basically blundered a move that allowed him to make it too equal. So it was completely equal, like computer-wise, but I managed to create a situation where he still had to think, and he had like 0 time, and then I just completely blundered away that last thing he had to think about, and then he had an easy draw. I don't remember the rest of the moves because I was kind of trying to blitz him out, but I started playing crazy around here. Like, I think in this position I played like g5 or something. Like, no, I didn't play g5. I played like, maybe was it king h6? I played something weird in this position, but like king h6, h4 I think was played or something. I don't remember, but the point is, yeah, I drew the first game. So that was not the brightest start to my tournament, drawing to somebody that was like, what, 150, 160 points ratings lower than me. I was not happy about that. Even though I was black, I felt like that right around here, I had a really nice position compared to white. So to draw this, I was very disappointed in, but oh well, the tournament continued. So in the next round, I faced, as white, Ryan Christensen, who I had faced in the previous Emory Castle expert sections, the last time I played him. And so we arrived at this position, and here, long story short, the opening really hadn't gone that well. We got a position that was actually on the board, like up to move 8. The exact same position was on the board, like 2 boards down. He didn't know this, but I knew this, so I stood up, looked at that board, because I was like, let me think on this board while he's thinking about his move. And so, from move 8, 2 boards down in Vedek's game, Vedek's opponent made a move, and Vedek responded. I was thinking about how Vedek responded and such, so I come back to my board, and sure enough, he makes the exact same move, so I insta-responded what Vedek responded, because I thought that was the right move, and Vedek's thinking confirmed it. And then they deviated literally after that move. So Vedek's opponent played one thing that I think was a little bit worse than what my opponent played, and my opponent played a better move. And I was kind of confused. We got into a weird position where white has a queenside majority, but black has the center, and his pieces are looking scary. And so I thought we'd enter the game in this position right here. And so it seems like black's threatening to go e5 right now and just really take over the center and activate everything. So I played a nice move, in my opinion, bishop f1, with the idea of basically freeing up the b5 square. So now I can put a pawn on b5 or put my knight on b5 and hop into d6. So my opponent responded with a6, which makes a ton of sense, and I responded with a4, again menacing that I might possibly play pawn b5, because I felt like I need counterplay. I can't just let him roll me over in the center. I have to start stuff going on the queen side. So okay, a4, a6, and here's where my opponent messed up. So I think the things I was most afraid of, for one, was e5, and I intended to meet this move with b5, again going for counterplay. And after b5, if knight takes d4, which I figured actually was a playable move, let's say knight takes d4, e takes d4, c takes. In this position, I actually thought that after bishop a3 I had a really nice position. Like, I was really digging this. I'm going to pick up the d-pawn, and then his d-pawn's weak, and I have a nice majority, so I was digging this position. And after b5, he can't really take on b5 because just knight takes and I come to d6 and his d-pawn's weak. Or actually, no, just take on b5, he just loses a pawn. Just knight takes b5 and queen takes d5, so he can't really take. So I was digging the line with knight takes d4. However, after knight c e7, I just thought I would be worse. I was looking at this position, I'm like, now what? Like, I'm just worse. And yeah, after just knight c2, I mean, black's just better. There's not much else to say. Black has complete control of the center. His pieces look a little bit better than mine. I mean, the game's not over by any means, but I would definitely pick black any day here. I think black's clearly got a slight edge here, so I was not exactly looking forward to trying to come back from this position. However, oh, also the computer says though that after e5, knight takes e6, b takes e6, c4 is actually the way to go. So basically, immediately challenging this center that black has established, and the computer gives this position as around equal. So I'll have to look into this a little bit more to help increase my understanding about, I guess, how to play chess. So yeah, this was the computer suggestion. However, he didn't go for e5. He went for b6, which to me was just the wrong approach. It just freed my position up so much. So I took on b6 with the tempo. I played knight c5 with the tempo. I played a5 with the tempo. And now we have a position where my knights are looking great. They're doing a really good job controlling things. My bishop on f1 is actually looking great. It's staring at that a6 pawn that might look weak. I might have a passer on the queen side one day. And yeah, I was liking my position all of a sudden. So this was starting to get good. So around this time in the game, we're starting to get a little bit low on time, so it's just progressing. So I played bishop e3, just developing my last piece. Rook d8 makes sense. Queen d2, connecting my rooks, taking control of the f4 square. And bishop e7, aiming at my knight, possibly threatening to double my pawns. I took this knight, took here, and just, again, centralized once again. I wasn't sure where to put the rook on d1 or c1, but whatever, just centralizing my pieces. And now comes e5. And again here, I wasn't too worried, but at the same time, I was starting to kind of feel the heat. So I decided to play queen a2. I'm not going to lie, this is a little bit artificial. I felt that he played bishop e7 because he wanted to play f5. So my goal was with queen a2 was, again, we were getting kind of low on time, so this move was artificial. I was kind of playing for tricks. I was hoping for f5, in which case I can go rook takes d5, rook takes d5, and like bishop to c4. And okay, now I'm just winning, so that would have been nice. But of course he's not going to blunder this. So he played knight f8, strong move. The idea is just trading off this strong knight on c5. And if he can do that and then push d4, this b4 pawn might fall, and I mean, stuff might start happening that's going to free up black a little bit. So I played g3, kind of a weird idea. Again, we were low on time, didn't have a lot of time to calculate, but I felt like this diagonal was weak, so I wanted to try to exploit it with this light squared bishop, put my bishop on the diagonal, and yeah, hopefully attack. The second I played g3, I realized his reply was possible, and so I was kind of like, uh-oh. He played bishop g4, taking advantage of the fact that I can no longer play f3. I played bishop e2, trading off these bishops, and again, here the tempo is really picked up in the game. Tempo is really picked up. Here, I think the position's about equal. Like, I don't really think anybody has a major advantage here. So, yeah, that's just my personal opinion. Knight e6 was played, and I got happy here because I thought I was winning a pawn by force. I calculated this before I played bishop e2, so I played knight e6, and then I played bishop b6, gaining a tempo here. But I kind of forgot my c3 pawn was hanging. So he played rook e8. I played queen takes c5, protecting my c3 pawn. But now bishop f6, and I'm just losing the pawn again. So I was kind of like, oh, great. Like, I thought the game was over after knight e6, but apparently not. So again, low on time. I played queen f4, and then yeah, here's kind of where the game ended. He had two options here. He can take with the queen, or he can take with the bishop. I think he took with the bishop, which is losing. I think the reason he didn't take with the queen is because after rook c1, he thought that maybe I was getting into the c file or something, which, okay, is maybe true. But taking with the bishop, I just played rook c1, just basic pen, really, and there's not really much to do. It seems like here that he can play this move. It seems like he can play e5, and then after queen f3, that he can play d4, but as you'll notice, there is no d4 in this position because of queen takes c6 with a slight edge to team white. So I think this is perhaps what he missed, that there's not d4 in this position. Otherwise, this would be pretty nice for black. So after rook c1, rook ac8, I saw that I had bishop d4, and I also calculated that after bishop takes e1, rook takes e6, rook takes e6, that I have this move queen to d4. And yeah, this was pretty much game over at this point. Bishop f2 here, 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 and here. And yeah, I was able to convert this. I just ended up creating a passed pawn pretty quickly. And the passed pawn plus the material, he couldn't save the game. So yeah, that was just about that. Alright, moving on to round 3. So right now I'm 1.5 out of 2. So okay, could be better, but also could be worse. I was playing Tommy Liu. That's black. Now, Tommy Liu is a player that I'm a little bit afraid of. I feel like he's a little bit underrated. His rating's 2135, but I easily put him, if he's trying his absolute hardest, at around 2170, 2180. So definitely a stronger player than his rating would suggest. He recently restarted playing again, but like he's definitely proved himself to have a pretty decent understanding in chess. And this was the last game on Saturday I played in the 2-day, so I was a little bit tired this game. I was like, playing Tommy as black, just not really what I was looking forward to. Tommy's honestly probably the person I was most afraid of playing in the tournament, especially as black. So we had d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3. And I know Tommy likes this line where he, after bishop to g5, he just plays queen c2, and he likes to go for a setup where he gets in, or tries to slow play it with like f3 and going for e4, and I didn't feel like dealing with that, so instead of playing the Nimzo, I decided to play my first, well not my first, my second Queen's Gambit declined in like, what, ever, maybe ever, who knows, I never played Queen's Gambit declined. And so I was hoping he would play knight f3 here, in which case I get to try out something new, but he played quickly, takes d5, bishop g5, and then I very quickly realized, like, oh no, he's still going to try the same f3, e4 idea, like, what have I done? So I decided to try to mix it up. So I played bishop e6, e3, again, not putting the knight on f3, so he can put the pawn on f3, knight to d7, bishop to d3, pawn to c6, knight to e2, and here's where I tried to jazz it up a little bit. I played h6, bishop h4, g5. So this is an idea in the Queen's Gambit declined that I'm kind of looking into right now. This is my second time trying it over the board. First time I tried it over the board, it was black against Sijing Wu. Didn't really work out, but I learned a lot from that game. So I had a little bit more experience, I guess, if you will, after looking at that game. So it's aligned. The idea is pretty much you create a little bit of a weakness on the king side, but you get the bishops, and then you kind of just try to play with the two bishops. So knight h5, hunting down the bishops, and e4. Tommy played this move relatively quickly. I don't really think it was a good move at the end of the day. I felt like this move allowed me to equalize pretty easily. I think he was probably trying to punish it, but yeah, I didn't really believe. So I took, and one of the immediate problems here is you really want to take with a knight here, but then you run into some checks, like maybe either bishop to b4 check or queen a5 check, and you're kind of missing that bishop being on the queen side. So he took with the bishop, which already looks kind of weird, and I did think about, like, does this work? Like f5 and then f4, basically, does that work? Because he can't go bishop g4 because I just have g4, but I think this doesn't work at all because, if I'm not mistaken, the move to be afraid of here is like d5, I think. And the problem here is that, long story short, this knight on e2 is jumping into d4 next, and you'll notice that discovered attack on the knight, the discovered attack on the bishop, and again those weak light squares would really come to play. And yeah, just the bishop's hanging in knight d4 is a threat. If you take this pawn on d5 with the bishop, I can still actually play knight in. Oh, I probably would just play bishop takes f5 and you probably lose, but I think d5 is just winning because of this idea of knight d4. So yeah, f5 wasn't really in the cards. So I just played knight takes g3, knight takes g3, and then knight f6. Just gaining a tempo on the bishop. I mean, it could be more natural. The bishop went to f5, and now queen d7. So some materials come off the board. White has an isolated d-pawn. Black has the two bishops. So as far as I'm concerned, I have two positional pluses. This little weakness on the king side, it's weak-ish, but again, pieces have come off. Who says I'm even castling king side? So I think I'm slightly better here, and I think the engine verified that. So queen e2, I just castle queen side. And again, I have the bishops and the better structure. He played bishop takes c6. And honestly, what I was doing in this position, again, just trying to let you guys know sometimes how, or at least how I view tournaments, because I'm always trying to win a tournament whenever I play. I was thinking, like, okay, my chances to win this game as black versus my chances to win in round 5 as black. I was like, what am I thinking? And again, Tommy was the opponent probably that I guess, feared, if you will, the most out of all the people playing. So I was okay with having a draw. Also, keep in mind, this is the third round I played on Saturday, so I was also pretty tired after the first draw and then the game against Michael, or Ryan, which didn't go so well. So I was pretty okay with the draw here, so I just went ahead and played queen takes e6, allowing the queen trade, and I can never lose this position. I'm just slightly better here, to be completely honest. Now, if this was David first round on Saturday, I'd take with the pawn and let's go. Like, we're going to start an attack. Computer says both are great, but I decided, okay, let's just trade queens. I can't lose this. I'm slightly better. So queenside castle. Then my play is pretty easy. Bishop to g7. The bishop looks nice there. The d-pawn's weak. My e-pawn's easily defended. f3, rook d6, rook here. And, yeah, we get to this position. Again, I'm just doing well here. b6, good move by me. This is not a good move by him. Basically, it allows knight d5. Tactically, before like going into all the details, this is just kind of a recap. Knight takes d5, rook takes d5, and then he plays this move and this move. The idea here is he's giving me a pawn, but he's simplifying into a completely equal rook ending. And I don't have to basically draw the game immediately by playing bishop takes d4. I could try to maintain the tension by just protecting my pawn. But again, I decided that I was fine with the draw here because I was tired. Tommy's a strong player, and I felt like I'd take my chances with somebody else's black. So I just went ahead and simplified, and I did still manage to press this rook ending actually. I managed to eventually get up a pawn in the rook ending and try to press as far as possible, but at the end of the day, this position's a draw, and he was able to draw this position. Even though it looks kind of scary, you know, I was able to press it as far as I possibly could, it's still a draw, and he drew this eventually, so yeah. So that was my game against Tommy in round 3. Round 4, I played Sejing as white, and we come into the position in here. Again, this position is basically equal. White has probably a weak d3 pawn, black has a weak e pawn. However, I feel like, no, the position is really just completely equal, so there's not much else to say. I decided to play knight h4, bring my knight into f5, maybe get my queen to f3, and I can at least pretend I've improved my pieces. And here, he went for e4, and so I think he kind of started to fear his position right now. It turns out tactically bishop e6 is working here, and that after knight f5, bishop takes b3, queen takes b3, queen e6. I guess I'll put that on the board. After knight here, let's say knight f5, bishop takes b3, in between moves, actually not a bad idea. And after queen takes b3, and I think queen e6, maybe queen e6, maybe queen e6. But maybe, I don't know, queen somewhere. Just move the queen somewhere, basically. And I feel like black should be fine. Queen d7, maybe. Maybe this, yeah. I guess. I don't know if you can take on d3 because rook d1, but yeah, maybe. But whatever the case. Black's completely fine here, no issues. I don't think he noticed that bishop e6 was possible. He just saw the knights coming in. And Sejing's a very active player, likes to play actively, so he plays this move with the not-so-subtle threat of queen takes g3. So, for instance, I can't play d takes c4 because I just lose a piece on the spot. I think he was hoping for knight takes c4, and after knight takes c4, pawn takes c4, he wanted to play this move, hitting my knight on h4 and attacking f2, and then he wanted to play knight e5, with the idea that if I take on e5, he takes an f2 with the bishop and just wins the exchange. And whatever I do next, like, no matter how I kind of try to get out of this, it's not going to work out too well for me. Like, if I go here, he's just going to take, and something like this. Or even if I manage to play in this position, I can't even play king h2 because bishop f2, so I think this is kind of what he wanted here. However, I played just d4, so I saw e4, but I calculated I can just play d4, and that pawn's so weak it's going to drop. I can put my bishop on it, I can put my queen on it, there's just too many ways I can pressure the pawn, so it's too weak. And then pretty much after this, I just won a free pawn here, and just managed to properly convert the game. He actually blundered another pawn right here. He tried for counterplay, missing that after bishop takes c5, I have b4, so another pawn was blundered here. And I temporarily made the game a little bit edgy because I played this move c6, which I thought was winning, and it is winning, by the way, engine verified. But I missed here that if I play c7, my original idea was c7, knight e2, and I wanted to play queen takes e2, this is my original idea. But then I got scared about, like, what about queen g6? And then I can't really step to this file because he just takes my knight and takes the pawn. But the computer points out that I have the very horrifying looking king h4, and it turns out I'm just completely safe. Black's completely lost. I'm just queen a next move. Yeah, I didn't see king h4, long story short. So I panicked and decided to trade queens, and then all of a sudden he started making things tough for me. This move prevents rook c5 because of knight e4, so that was annoying. So rook e5, the knight came in here. I'm defending the pawn laterally, which is not really what I wanted here. He goes to try to win another pawn, the knight comes in. Again, I can't push c7 because he just attacks it with knight d5. So I bring in my knight. He brings in his knight. I run away with my king. And finally, I managed to get a win. He resigned in this position. Thankfully, this happened because I was starting to get annoyed with myself. And yeah, long story short, now there's just too much. The rook's paralyzed, the pawn's queening, the knight's paralyzed. Now it's game over. So that was that. Pretty smooth win there. Nothing really to talk about. So we get to my last round game, and following the trend from last year where I had a crazy finish. Last year in the last round, if I drew, I got like what, $900 or something, and if I lost, I got like barely anything. And in the last round, the position was like a +6 for my opponent, dead loss, +6, and I was down a lot of time. And then the craziest thing happened. Somehow my opponent just started thinking, not stop thinking until he had like 1 or 2 minutes left, and I made a few quick moves, and it's still +6. But I offered him a draw and basically told him, like, yo, if we draw, we both split first place. We agreed to a draw, so I drew in, like, a dead loss position. Literally +6, we shook hands and agreed to a draw. So just watch what happens in this game. C4, E5, okay, English. I decided I needed to play for a win. If I win this game, I get, like, 650. If I draw, I get, like, nothing, so we're all playing for a win. F5, let's go for a reverse Sicilian. My first time ever playing this, so after knight at 6, bishop g2, I decided, hey, I'm not going to need this bishop for the attack. Let me trade it off for his knight. Solid plan, right? Queen c2. So here we get to a weird point in the game where I'm basically trying to figure out, okay, after castles, queen takes, knight c6, how much comp do I have with the idea of playing d5? Like, do I have enough comp to do this? I was also trying to figure out after, let's see, queen c2, after knight c6 alone, queen takes, do I have enough comp here? I was like, okay, how's my comp looking? Because, okay, optically, black's position looks like some sort of king's gambit. I was trying to figure out how much comp I have, and then I said, you know what, it's a must-win game. I wasn't seeing that much compensation because white's actually got a pretty solid structure, so I said, you know what, let's play it safe. Just play d6, protect the pawn, and go on. So I play d6, and if you check the database, at least the database I checked on my phone, this position's been reached about 9 times, average rating of 1800 for black. And, well, pause your video if you want and see what do you think white should play. And yeah, just like that, on move 6, I was down an entire piece. No compensation, no pawn, no nothing. Knight c6 does not save the bishop, just bishop takes c6, and it's a wrap. He takes my bishop again, there's just nothing to do. My opponent played it really quickly, and it was kind of funny because it's like the queen stutter step. It's like queen c2, d6, queen a4. I just never played this opening before, so it's not a motif I knew. No, the stutter step threw me off. It was, I don't think I can recall a single game in my whole chess career where I've ever blundered a full piece that fast. Literally, it's move 5. This happened on move 5, and yeah, by move 7, I was just completely down a piece. So yeah, I remember just looking around. I wasn't even mad. Like, some people get really angry or like slam the board. I quickly thought about resigning, but I was like, I didn't come all this way to resign. And I just kind of laughed it off. I looked at my friends that were around me. I kind of like smiled at them, looking at the board, like, look what I just did. People next to me were looking at my board like, what just happened? And yeah. So my mindset from this point in the game was, okay, we're down a piece, so now we have nothing to lose. Like, okay, congratulations to my opponent. This is the easiest $600 you've ever made. You're playing a master and he blunders a piece in move 5. Congrats. But the game's not over yet. I'm not checkmated yet. I'm just going to pretend I'm not down a piece and try to create compensation. That's what I'm going to do. So bishop d7, queen takes b4, knight c6. My first attempt at creating compensation. The ideas of queen takes b7, rook b6 here, and all of a sudden I'm back in the game. So that was my plan there. He went queen b3. I started on this plan with knight d4 and c6. So c6 just taking control of the d5 square. Maybe one day I'll try to build a big center and play d5. Also, I wanted to bring this knight to the king side, so I was planning on putting the knight on the e6 square. And hopefully it'll be closer to the king side, and then hopefully I can get some sort of last-ditch attack in. So d3, castles. Here I thought just bishop g5. I mean, just trade pieces. You're up an entire piece. Don't worry about the bishop pair. Just trade. Bishop g5, bishop takes f6. Who cares? He played knight f6. Also a good move. Trying to trade. Knight e6. Like I said, no trades. And again, here, bishop g5. Just trade pieces. Or knight g5. Who cares? Just trade. That's all you should really be doing here. Maybe castle, but I would just start trading off pieces. Instead, he went for a b4 after a long think. And my opponent was really just trying to, like, kill me immediately. Which I understand. Why not? The idea is simply that if he gets in c5 and removes my d-pawn from protecting my e-pawn, I actually can resign, because then the position will open up, the two bishops will pour through, and I'll be down a piece, and my position, even if I wasn't down a piece, would be busted, so there's no point in playing. This pawn is hanging, however, so I decided to go for queen b6, which temporarily pauses c5 and hits the b4 pawn. I have some hoop dreams of like, okay, let's give a random move here. Something like, and I do mean hoop dreams, of something like this sort of thing going on. That would be beautiful. Something like this. Maybe like, I don't know. I had some hoop dreams. I mean, that probably wouldn't happen. Even here, you can probably just move the knight somewhere, knight d7. But even, okay, again, hoop dreams. You know, just pretending there's compensation in the position. You know, maybe like take a knight g4 or something. But whatever, that didn't happen. So after queen b6, he actually castled, which to me is a little bit reckless, just a little bit, because I didn't really see any reason I shouldn't take on b4. I'm down a piece for no material, so I was like, now I can be down a piece for a pawn. Okay, technically I haven't improved my position. Also, this takes a little bit of the bite out of c5. So I play queen takes, he plays queen b3, and now queen a5. And now he plays c5. Okay, now in this position though, I noticed there was a tactic looming after I played queen a5 and I'm waiting for his move. I noticed there was a tactic in this position, and what I realized is, let's give a complete dummy move, h3. I realized that if I can get in e4, pawn takes e4, pawn takes e4, knight anywhere, knight d2, that I'd automatically be winning a piece, because I would have this tactic. The knight comes in, and all of a sudden, no matter where the queen moves, I have queen takes c3, queen takes c3, knight takes e2, and I win a piece. So actually, I was starting to get really happy around this point, because that's an easy tactic to blunder, but it's actually very close. If I just play e4, the game's essentially over. Because e4, like, you can't really stop the variation. If e4, again, let me give a dummy move, h3. If e4, knight d2, again, it doesn't really matter. I still have this tactic, and I just immediately went on the spot, because again, I have the same motif. So here he played c5, which again, he's trying to destroy my structure. I can't take with the knight. If I take with the pawn, I mean, I guess I lose. And if I take with the queen, bishop a3. So now it's kind of like, wait a minute, I think I can trick him here. Because it's like, wait, if I take with the pawn, or if I push d5, e5 hangs in either case. He's going to take e5, and then I get into tactic. So I was trying to figure out, okay, which one do I take with which one? And I decided eventually d5, and then I kind of tried to sell it right here. Because if knight takes e5 works tactically, then okay, like, I'm just dead lost, right? I'm just dead lost. e4 is coming, and it's just nothing to do. So I was like shaking my head, I was kind of talking to myself, like, dang it, you know, kind of cursing myself a little bit. Got up from the board, came back, shook my head, you know, did all those sort of things when you're like in distress, right? Just to, because this is my one chance. It's like $650. I had no chance at the beginning of the game. Now, who knows? So this is like the one chance. I tried to put all the tad little subliminal acting things. I wasn't overboard with it. It's not overboard. But I tried to put those little subliminal things people do when they're depressed. And so he thought for a while, and well, he took the pawn. And I immediately, I think I literally breathed out thank you as I was moving the piece. Not loud, but just like to myself, because I couldn't believe it. Dropped in knight d4. And boy, was this a momentum shift. After this move, my opponent literally thought for around 35 to 40 minutes. After knight d4, a 35 to 40 minute think. He just, hands on head, went into the tank. And I got up, I was like, looking at my friends, like, look at my board, because I couldn't believe it. Like, I was down a piece on move 5, it's now move 17 or 16, and I've got my piece back. Now, am I better or not? Who cares? The point is, I'm not down a piece. That is a humongous change. It went from the game's actually over to now the game's got to be played. And this created a tremendous just psychological shift, because it turns out, even after all said and done, white is still better. And white's not just better, white's like definitely better, like +1 type better. So white should still be able to win this game with strong play, with accurate, strongish play. But I think this really just threw him off, and like psychologically, the fact that it shifted this big really just threw him down the rabbit hole, if you will. So he actually picked a good line at the end of the day. He went with queen d1, and then after queen here, he went with rook b1. So there are some ideas here of bishop to b2. I don't even think I can get away with queen takes c5, because bishop e3 and that pin just looks way too deadly. So, yeah, we get to this position. Now, this position is better for white. White is about to have two bishops versus two knights, and white has a pretty clear way to open up the position with pawn to e4 one day. So, in the long term, with black not being up any material, this should just be a pretty nice position for white. White should be happy here, but again, it's kind of hard to be happy when you're getting this position after just being up a clear piece with black having no compensation. So I played knight e6, which was correct. Takes, also correct. And now kind of a strange move. I was expecting just the normal rook takes b7, and then after, let's say, knight takes b7, or knight takes over here, and perhaps rook to b1, I was expecting us to play some chess. And again, I was feeling worse about this position. I had some ideas, but they, like I said, the two bishops versus the two knights, my knights are kind of clumsy. They don't really have a place to go, and I wasn't looking forward to doing this. I think I was considering like queen a5 here, if I'm not mistaken, just hitting the a2 pawn and getting my queen out of dodge. And then I was looking to eventually try to get in d4 and get my knight to c3. So yeah, I think my idea was d4 and get the knight to c3 and c5 and pray. But it was gonna be rough. It was gonna be rough. However, here he just played bishop to d2, which, okay, I think allowed me to perhaps try to start like shifting the tables, because this allowed my queen to go to a3, where his a2 pawn's now under attack, and his c5 pawn's now under attack, and now knight takes c5 doesn't exactly land me in a pin. It lands me in a fork with the bishop to b4, but not a pin. So things had shifted. So after bishop to b4 is another strange move. Again, here I think just rook takes b7 was not that bad of an idea here. Just take on b7, or at least protect the pawn, something like this. But definitely maybe rook takes b7 I think should be played, because we have things like rook takes b7 here, and then maybe bishop b4, maybe. But yeah, I think the line I saw in my head was here, takes, here, and then like here, something like this perhaps could have been played. So I don't know. This is just a maybe. But bishop b4 is another strange move, because I thought about it, and even though it looks a little bit risky, I decided to grab the pawn. I literally said, I don't see any way. I looked and looked. I didn't see any way for him to trap the queen, which, by the way, is one of literally the hardest things to calculate in chess. It's hard enough to calculate trapping somebody else's queen, because the queen is such an elusive piece, but when you're having to calculate your own queen not being trapped, you literally have to like try to look into your opponent's head and then try to trap your own queen, and then if you find a way out, try to make sure there is no way out of that way out. Like it's so hard to basically keep a queen safe in a position like this. So it took a lot of my energy to like make sure like I'm not getting my queen lost by force. And so yeah, we get to this position, and now I'm just up a pawn. So went from I was down a piece on move 5 to now we're on move 21 and I'm up a pawn. Still equal because my queen's weird, he's got the two bishops, but at the same token, I'm up a pawn, so whatever. e4, interesting. I was like, this guy's either a genius or he's crazy. I didn't know, because he played it relatively quick, even though he was starting to get low on time around here. And after some thinking, I decided not to touch that tension. I was like, I'm going to leave that. I don't want to open anything, so I played knight to c7. Turns out not to be such a great move, because there are some tactics here involving, like, I think it was like a rook a1, something like rook a1, queen b2, here the queen goes somewhere, whatever, maybe queen c3, and then there was some tactic like this happening, something like this, and this wasn't working out well for team black. But he didn't see that, and I didn't see that. At the time, I thought knight c7 was a nice move. He played bishop c3 with the idea of trying to hopefully trap my queen, but here comes the point of knight c7. Now I have knight into here. And last but not least, the last point I wanted to really talk about this tournament, this was a super critical moment, very instructive for just tournament play in general. Rook takes b5 is, you have to sack the exchange. If not now, on the next move. Rook takes b5 must be played. Rook takes, and then just take, and I mean, like, okay, we play some chess, something like this. In the game he played bishop a1, and again, here, d4, if you don't play rook takes b5, I'm going to have an easy win, a clear win. I'm up a pawn, am I up 2 pawns? No, I'm up a pawn, your bishop's terrible, my knight's coming to c3, you just have to go for this. You shouldn't even think twice. It's clear that white has compensation. Sure, white may not be better, black is still better here, but white has some comp, but you just need to give up the exchange and just say, at least it's not going to be an easy game, at least I can fight. He had about 20 minutes here, so he's actually pretty decently low on time, and he thought for about 17 of those 20 minutes and played rook b4. And sure enough, this was just the downfall, because now I just started making relatively quick moves. He had about 2 minutes left because he spent 17 minutes and then didn't make the critical move, and I was able to pretty easily convert here, winning the exchange and using some tactics here to simplify things, and then we just got to a completely winning game where I was eventually able to pull it out. And yeah, he resigned here. So yeah. So long story short, a super long video, I know. Sorry, I just felt like making a video. But that was my recap of Emory Castle. Overall, my play was okay. My round one game, I underestimated my opponent, blundered a tactic. I still came back, but I can't be blundering such tactics. My round two game, again, the opening was really sketch. I got into what I figured was a worse position. Didn't really understand what I was doing, so that wasn't that great. Round three, I went for an easy draw when I could have pressed, although I still couldn't have impressed with that game because I was playing such an extravagant opening. Round four was smooth, and round five I blundered a piece. So my play was not quite up to standards. Wasn't that good. My play wasn't that good, basically. But it was good enough to get second, thankfully. So there's that. So I'll look to improve and play a little bit better next time. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I definitely hope you learned something, or maybe learned a few things about viewing tournaments, or just like what's going through people's head. And yeah, guys, until next time.